This video is going to cover the most notorious and infamous serial killers from every decade, from the 1900s to the 2000s. 1900s. H. H. Holmes. Holmes, born Herman Webster Mudgett, is often considered one of the earliest widely known American serial killers. He operated primarily in Chicago in the 1890s. Holmes constructed a hotel-like building sometimes called the Murder Castle, allegedly featuring hidden rooms, trapdoors, gas lines, and secret passages that allowed him to control and dispose of victims. His victims were often women he employed, romantic partners, or business associates whom he defrauded for insurance money. Holmes confessed to 27 murders, but historians debate the real number, with estimates ranging from 9 to possibly dozens. He was arrested in 1894 after a failed insurance fraud scheme and was executed by hanging in 1896 in Philadelphia. 1910s. Henri-Désiré Landru. Landru targeted lonely widows during the chaos and social disruption of World War I. Using newspaper personal ads, he lured women seeking companionship or marriage. After gaining their trust, he invited them to his home in the countryside near Paris, where they disappeared. Investigators later found that Landru had burned their bodies in a large stove to destroy evidence. Police eventually linked him to 10 confirmed murders, though more victims were suspected due to the number of missing women connected to him. He was arrested in 1919 and executed by guillotine later that year. 1920s. Albert Fish. Albert Fish, nicknamed the Gray Man, was one of the most disturbing killers in U.S. history. Operating mainly in New York City during the 1920s to 1930s, Fish lured victims with promises of jobs, parties, or food. His crimes included kidnapping and murder, and he became infamous for sending a detailed letter describing the killing of 10-year-old Grace Budd to her family. Fish confessed to 3 murders, but he claimed to have killed over 100 children, though this number is widely doubted. After police traced the letter to him, he was arrested in 1934, convicted, and executed in the electric chair in 1936. 1930s. Peter Kürten. Peter Kürten, known as the Vampire of Dusseldorf, terrorized Dusseldorf between 1929 and 1930. His crimes included stabbings, strangulations, and attacks with blunt objects. He often targeted random victims, men, women, and children, and sometimes committed arson to create chaos. The nickname Vampire came from reports that he drank or attempted to drink victims' blood. Authorities confirmed 9 murders, though he committed numerous assaults and attempted killings. Kürten's wife eventually turned him into police, leading to his arrest in 1930. He was executed by guillotine in 1931, and his case became one of the earliest studied extensively by criminal psychologists. 1940s. Gordon Cummins. Gordon Cummins, nicknamed the Blackout Ripper, committed his murders in London during the blackouts of World War II. The city's lights were turned off at night to avoid German bombing raids, creating dark conditions that helped criminals operate unnoticed. Cummins targeted sex workers. He was responsible for 4 murders and multiple assaults in 1942. Police identified him through forensic evidence, including items left at crime scenes, and he was arrested and executed later that same year. 1950s. Ed Gein. In 1957, police investigating a missing store owner discovered his farmhouse in rural Plainfield, filled with items made from human remains, including furniture, masks, and clothing crafted from skin. Ed Gein, also known as the Butcher of Plainfield, was confirmed to have murdered 2 women, though he also robbed numerous graves to obtain body parts. His disturbed behavior was strongly attributed to his controlling and abusive mother. The bizarre nature of his crimes inspired several fictional killers in horror media, including characters in Psycho, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and The Silence of the Lambs. He was arrested in 1957 and spent the rest of his life in psychiatric institutions until his death in 1984. 1960s. Boston Strangler. The Boston Strangler was the name given to the person responsible for a series of murders in Boston between 1962 and 1964. During this period, 13 women were killed in their apartments, most of them elderly. The victims were typically strangled with clothing such as stockings that were tied around their necks. The man most associated with the crimes is Albert DeSalvo, who confessed to being the Boston Strangler while in prison for other crimes. However, he was never officially tried or convicted for the murders, which led to debate about whether he committed all of them. In 2013, modern DNA testing linked DeSalvo to one of the victims, Mary Sullivan, providing strong evidence that he was responsible for at least part of the killings. DeSalvo was serving a life sentence when he was killed by another inmate in 1973. 1970s. Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy murdered at least 30 young women across several U.S. states during the 1970s, though investigators suspect the true number may be higher. He often pretended to be injured, wearing a fake cast or using crutches to gain sympathy and lure victims to his car. Bundy's intelligence and outward charm allowed him to avoid suspicion for years. After multiple arrests and 2 dramatic escapes from custody, he was finally convicted of murders in Florida. Bundy was executed in the electric chair in 1989, and his case became one of the most extensively studied examples of psychopathic serial killers. 1980s. Richard Ramirez. Richard Ramirez, who was also known as the Night Stalker, terrorized Los Angeles and surrounding areas between 1984 and 1985. He broke into homes at night, committing murders, sexual assaults, and robberies. His crimes appeared random, which made them especially frightening to the public. Ramirez killed 13 people and injured many others. His case gained national attention due to the brutality of the attacks and his satanic imagery in court. He was captured in 1985 after people recognized him from widely distributed photos, 1990s. Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer, possibly the most known serial killers of all time, murdered 17 men and boys between 1978 and 1991 in Milwaukee. He lured victims to his apartment, drugged them, and committed murders involving dismemberment and preservation of body parts. Dahmer attempted to create submissive zombie-like victims through chemical experiments. He was arrested in 1991. Dahmer was sentenced to multiple life terms but was killed by another inmate in prison in 1994. 2000s. Harold Shipman. Harold Shipman was a family doctor in Hyde who used his medical position to murder patients by injecting them with lethal doses of morphine. He was convicted of 15 murders, but a major investigation later estimated he may have killed over 200 patients. By number of victims, this makes him one of the most notorious serial killers of all time. Shipman often falsified medical records and death certificates to hide his crimes. He was then sentenced to life imprisonment but died by suicide in prison in 2004.